Breaking news coming in at this hour, and it is massive. Iran has launched a direct and unprecedented military strike targeting what intelligence agencies have long identified as Israel's most heavily guarded and top-secret nuclear facility, buried deep in the heart of the Negev Desert. Explosions have been reported, sirens are wailing across southern Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces have activated their highest level of emergency alert. The Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the Arrow missile defense systems are all engaged. The Middle East stands on the razor's edge of a full-scale war tonight. We are going to live with every detail. Stay with us. Good evening, I'm Kamala, and you are watching the News TV with continuous, wall-to-wall breaking news coverage. Tonight, the world holds its breath as the Islamic Republic of Iran launches what officials are calling the most significant direct military strike against the state of Israel in modern history, targeting the ultra-classified nuclear research facility located in the Negev Desert. Here is everything we know right now. Let us begin with the attack itself. According to multiple intelligence sources and real-time satellite imagery now being analyzed by Western defense agencies, Iran launched a coordinated barrage of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and what are believed to be advanced hypersonic glide vehicles, directly at a location approximately 30 kilometers southeast of the city of Dimona in Israel's southern Negev Desert. The first wave of missiles was detected at approximately 2:17 a.m. local Israeli time. Within minutes, Israel's multi-layered missile defense network engaged the incoming projectiles. Witnesses in the towns of Arad, Yeruham, and Beersheva reported hearing massive explosions that shook buildings and shattered windows. Emergency alert systems activated across the entire southern district, ordering civilians into bomb shelters immediately. The Israeli military confirmed that the attack involved more than 150 projectiles fired in rapid succession, making this the single largest direct missile assault ever directed at Israeli territory from a sovereign nation. Now, let's talk about the target and why this attack is unlike anything we have seen before. The facility in question, which Israel has never officially acknowledged as a nuclear weapons site, is widely believed by international intelligence communities to be the Shimon Peres Negev Nuclear Research Center, historically known as the Dimona reactor. Built in the late 1950s with French assistance, this facility has long been suspected of producing plutonium for Israel's undeclared nuclear arsenal. Israel maintains a policy of deliberate nuclear ambiguity, neither confirming nor denying the existence of nuclear weapons. However, former insiders, leaked documents, and decades of intelligence assessments suggest the facility houses advanced nuclear warhead research, weapons-grade material enrichment, and possibly assembled warheads stored in underground bunkers. By targeting this location, Iran has struck at the most sensitive and protected military scientific installation in Israel's entire defense infrastructure, a move that crosses every conceivable red line in international conflict. Tehran has already released an official statement through its state media apparatus. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, issued a declaration calling the strike Operation True Promise 3, describing it as a retaliatory and defensive action. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei appeared on state television within hours of the attack, stating, and I quote, "The Zionist regime has threatened the existence of the Islamic Republic for decades with its illegitimate and illegal nuclear weapons. Tonight, we have exercised our sovereign right to neutralize that existential threat." Iran's foreign ministry simultaneously sent formal communications to the United Nations Security Council, invoking Article 51 of the UN Charter, which permits self-defense against armed attack. Iran claims that recent Israeli covert operations, including alleged sabotage of Iranian nuclear facilities, assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists, and cyber attacks, constituted ongoing acts of war that justified this unprecedented direct military response against Israel's own nuclear capabilities. Israel's response has been swift, furious, and unequivocal. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened an emergency war cabinet session within minutes of the first impact. In a nationally televised address delivered from an undisclosed secure location, Netanyahu declared, quote, "The state of Israel has been attacked in the most egregious and dangerous manner in its history. This act of war will be met with consequences that the Iranian regime cannot imagine and will not survive." The Israeli Defense Forces have raised their alert status to the highest level. Full war footing. All military leave has been cancelled. Reservists are being called up across the country. Israeli Air Force fighter jets, including F-35I Adir stealth aircraft, have been scrambled and are reportedly already airborne. Intelligence sources suggest that Israel's submarine fleet, including Dolphin-class submarines believed to carry nuclear-capable cruise missiles, has been deployed to strategic positions in the Arabian Sea and the Persian Gulf. A critical question at this hour is how Israel's world-renowned missile defense systems performed against this massive barrage. Early reports are mixed and deeply concerning the Arrow 3 system, designed to intercept ballistic missiles in space, and the Arrow 2 system, designed for upper atmosphere interception, successfully engaged a significant number of incoming projectiles. The David Sling system targeted medium-range threats. However, defense analysts monitoring the situation say that the sheer volume and sophistication of the attack, involving simultaneous launches from multiple locations inside Iran, and reportedly from allied militia positions in Iraq and Yemen, overwhelms certain layers of the defense network. At least 12 to 15 projectiles are believed to have penetrated all defensive layers and struck in the vicinity of the Dimona complex. The extent of the damage to the nuclear facility itself remains unknown at this hour. Israeli authorities have imposed a strict information blackout on the status of the facility and any potential radiological consequences. And that brings us to one of the most terrifying aspects of this entire crisis: the possibility of a radiological disaster. If missiles struck the Dimona nuclear reactor or any associated storage facilities containing nuclear material, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for Israel, but for the entire region. International nuclear safety experts are sounding urgent alarms tonight. A breach of the reactor core or damage to spent fuel storage could release radioactive contamination across a wide area. Wind patterns in the Negev at this time of year could carry radioactive material northeast toward Jordan and beyond. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, has issued an emergency statement calling for immediate access to the site to assess any potential radiological release. Israel, which has never allowed IAEA inspectors into the Dimona facility, has not responded to this request. Meanwhile, residents in southern Israel are being advised to remain sealed indoors as a precautionary measure. The international reaction has been immediate and explosive. The President of the United States addressed the nation from the White House Situation Room, calling the Iranian attack, quote, a reckless and dangerous escalation that threatens to plunge the entire Middle East into catastrophic war. The president confirmed that American military assets in the region, including carrier strike groups in the eastern Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf, have been placed on the highest state of readiness. NATO has called an emergency article for consultation meeting. The United Kingdom, France, and Germany have issued a joint statement condemning Iran's actions in the strongest possible terms. Russia and China, however, have called for, quote, restraint from all parties, while notably refusing to explicitly condemn Iran. The United Nations Security Council has been convened for an emergency session. The Secretary General has called for an immediate ceasefire and warned that the world faces, quote, the most dangerous moment since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Beyond the direct Iran-Israel confrontation, there are massive fears of a wider regional escalation that could drag multiple nations into conflict. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran's most powerful proxy force, has placed all of its fighters on full combat alert. Reports from Beirut suggest that Hezbollah's vast arsenal of an estimated 150,000 rockets and missiles is being prepared for potential use against northern Israel. In Yemen, the Houthi movement has declared full solidarity with Iran and has threatened to launch further attacks on Israeli-linked shipping in the Red Sea and on Israeli territory itself using long-range drones and ballistic missiles, Iranian-backed. Militias in Iraq and Syria have also mobilized. Israel now faces the terrifying prospect of a multi-front war, missiles from Iran to the east, Hezbollah to the north, Houthis from the south, and militia attacks from Syria and Iraq. This is a nightmare scenario that Israeli military planners have warned about for decades. The economic consequences are already being felt around the globe with devastating speed. Crude oil prices have surged past $140 per barrel in overnight trading, the highest level ever recorded, as markets panic over the potential disruption of oil supplies. From the Persian Gulf, Iran has reportedly placed its naval forces on high alert in the Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately 20% of the world's oil supply passes daily. Any disruption to this critical choke point would send energy prices into uncharted territory. Global stock markets are in freefall. Asian markets opened with losses exceeding 7%. European futures indicate similarly catastrophic drops. Gold prices have skyrocketed as investors flee to safe haven assets. The United States Strategic Petroleum Reserve has been placed on standby for emergency release. Economists warn that a prolonged conflict could trigger a global recession, with energy-dependent nations in Europe and Asia facing the most severe consequences. Military analysts and former defense officials are now weighing in on what comes next, and the assessments are deeply alarming. Retired General David Petraeus, speaking on American television, described the situation as a quote, "the most dangerous military escalation in the Middle East in 50 years, surpassing even the Yom Kippur War of 1973. The critical question now is whether Israel will respond with a conventional military strike against Iranian nuclear and military infrastructure, or whether the breach of its most sacred nuclear facility could trigger a response of a fundamentally different nature. Israel's policy of nuclear ambiguity means that no one outside the innermost circle of Israeli leadership knows exactly what thresholds exist for the use of unconventional weapons. American officials are reportedly engaged in urgent, back-channel communications with both Israeli and Iranian counterparts, desperately trying to prevent further escalation. The coming hours will determine whether diplomacy prevails, or whether the region descends into unprecedented conflict. We must not lose sight of the human cost of this crisis in southern Israel. Thousands of civilians spent the night huddled in bomb shelters as explosions echoed across the desert. Hospitals in Beersheba and surrounding towns are reporting dozens of injuries from falling debris and shrapnel, though no confirmed civilian fatalities have been announced at this time. The psychological toll, however, is immeasurable. Families with children are terrified. Elderly Holocaust survivors describe a fear they hope never to experience again. In Iran, civilians in Tehran and other major cities are also bracing for what they fear will be a devastating Israeli retaliatory strike. Iranians have begun stockpiling food, water, and medicine. Social media from inside Iran shows long lines at gas stations and ATMs. Both populations, Israeli and Iranian, ordinary men, women, and children who want nothing to do with war, now find themselves caught in the crossfire of a geopolitical conflict of historic and terrifying proportions. So tonight, the world watches and waits. Iran has struck at the heart of Israel's most guarded secret. Israel has vowed a response of unimaginable magnitude. The great powers are mobilizing, oil markets are in chaos, and millions of innocent civilians on both sides pray for a dawn that brings diplomacy rather than destruction. This is a moment that will be recorded in the history books, a moment where the decisions of a few leaders will determine the fate of millions. The question that hangs over this dark night is simple and terrifying. Can this escalation be stopped before it crosses a point of no return? We will continue our coverage throughout the night and into the morning with every update as it happens. You have been watching continuous breaking news coverage on the News TV. I'm Kame. Stay with us, we will bring you every development in this rapidly evolving crisis as it unfolds. Do not go anywhere, our team of correspondents, military analysts, and diplomatic experts are standing by. This is the News TV, your source for breaking news around the world.